said they were outdated, and sometimes because the rules for verification weren't properly observed, sometimes because the pace of technological development meant that these frameworks, their capacity to innovate, was not enough. Technological change was going too quick. However, we've got no right to give up. We have to build that crucial framework for peace. The same demand for effectiveness, effective multilateralism, is one that we need to uphold for our global challenges. The Secretary General attaches great importance to our organisation, and he has ambition for it, and that's shown through his initiative UN 80, and I share his concerns about our organisation. Yes, we need, at this time of disarray that I talked about as a result of these major issues of war and conflict, we can't forget there are so many global challenges that mean that we must all come together. Let us stare straight in the face global imbalances. All economies affected. All economies, and I'm speaking as one of the richest among them, but also middle-income countries, developing countries, and of course the poorest nations among us. All of us, if we can't have organized international debate on major global imbalances, if our response is a fragmented one and we don't work together, we exacerbate these problems. Today, our challenge is to look at how we can help China to develop the internal demand that it really needs. How can we ensure that productive capacities that China's been able to develop in recent years, these technological capacity, sometimes there's technological transfer, and that's good, but they need to be conducted hand in hand with harmonious development and respectfully the environment. How can we correct US trade imbalances? How can we do that through corrective measures, not through tariffs that takes the rug out from under international trade? There's Europe that needs to respond to collective needs for collective investment, and we need to shoulder that responsibility. These challenges mean that we need to cooperate. There needs to be cooperation between major economies, but we can't pit the G7 against the BRICS, and that's the very rationale behind our agenda for the French G7 of 2026. Of course, we'll work with the Canadian presidency of G7 and the coming presidents of G20. We need to return to that spirit of cooperation that is vital, because that's what will allow us also to have a common agenda to finance our global challenges. Let's take a look at things today. Everywhere we're reducing, eroding our common ambitions to finance major global challenges. Collective financing for healthcare is plummeting, as is financing for food security, as is financing for education. These challenges are, however, our challenges, even more than they were before the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. And so it is absolutely pivotal that together we prove ourselves able to develop concrete solutions and find new financing to address our challenges. The European Union decided to mobilize. The Commission's President's speech was great in this connection. We are mobilizing financing as Europeans to meet these challenges, but we must do so within a renewed framework. That's what we tried to do together during the pandemic itself with our African partners, during the financing summit which we held in 2021. The work we did there was work we continued at the 4P summit, where we developed this pact for the prosperity of peoples and the planet. Ultimately, the agendas were the same. Together, we need to work together better to address global economic imbalances. We must develop an agenda of growth everywhere, but we must do that to also help countries to finance education, healthcare, stabilization and food security, and help them to address challenges of biodiversity and the climate. Let us come off the horns of a dilemma. We don't need to choose between growth, climate change and biodiversity. We can do everything if we mobilize private and public financing within a framework that brings together, reconciles east, west, north and south. That's the framework we've built. And now what we need to do is expedite the transition